My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my list of the 10 biggest disappointments of 2023. This ain't a list of the worst movies, it's a list where my expectations and reality had a big margin between them. Some of these movies I do like, some of these movies I hate. Either way, I went into these movies expecting to love them. So let's begin with my list, and this is my list, so when I mention the number 10 movie, just keep in mind it's my expectations. And my 10th biggest disappointment is Onyx, the Futurious and Talisman of Souls. Now, most of you haven't heard of this movie, but it was started by Kickstarter, it's filled with practical effects, it has Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs in it, who starred in From Beyond and Reanimator together. Like, this movie felt like it was going to be made for me. And I watched it, and it's just annoying. Nothing about it worked. Some cool practical effects, but not nearly enough. Like, the main character just got on my nerves. He wouldn't shut up. Everybody is on the verge of suffering for eternity, and nobody acts accordingly. They're pretty chill about the entire situation. The movie is just a complete mess. It's honestly embarrassing bad. Like, it is the very definition of a cringy movie. And yeah, I was really bummed out about it. The ninth biggest disappointment is Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. And yes, Shaun the Sheep 2 disappointed me. Yes, Oly Man disappointed me. Aardman has not been the same company they once were, but I was still optimistic about this one. I wanted it to be good. At the very least, I wanted to have fun with it. But this movie was just as generic as they come, and the voice cast is a noticeable step down. All these characters who once felt distinct and had personality and charisma are now void of all of that. And I heard some, like, the music is great, and I heard it, and I'm like, I want to love this movie, but I just feel nothing, and it's just, it was never funny. The pacing in this movie is truly atrocious. Like, the actual structure of the plot, complete disaster. I went to a woke Christmas party after I watched it, and people are just like, how are you doing? And I'm just like, well, I just suffered one of the biggest disappointments of the year. And yeah, this movie, very bad. My eighth biggest disappointment is No One Will Save You. Now, this movie is directed by Brian Duffield, who also directed Spontaneous, a movie I like but don't love. And what this movie is a home invasion movie with aliens. And for the first act, I was just like, this movie is going to be amazing. Like, I'm going to love it. And then after that first act, like, the quality drops noticeably. It is just very generic, very unexciting. I never found it to be tense or thrilling, and it's about a character facing grief, which, yes, is universal, but not every movie has to try to be deep. It was just so surface level, and it just took me out of the movie. Like, nothing about the last two acts worked for me, which is a real shame because I love Caitlin Dever, I love horror, I love aliens, I love home invasion movies. Like, this movie should have been my jam, and it just wasn't. The next biggest disappointment is 65. Now, this movie is directed by, oh my goodness, what are the names? Beck and Woods, I believe? Zach Beck and Brian Woods? I might be wrong. But anyways, they wrote A Quiet Place, a movie I love. They wrote A Quiet Place 2, a movie I enjoy. They directed Haunt, a movie that I love. If you haven't seen Haunt, watch it. And then I hear they're going to do a sci-fi movie where it's about this guy trying to survive dinosaurs. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm in. Like, I've always wanted non-Jurassic Park dinosaur movies. And unfortunately, this movie is just as bland as they come. I would talk about it in depth, but the truth is, I remember nothing about it. Nothing. I do like the ticking clock element with the meteorite coming to Earth, but what's a really fresh and new idea just felt stale and redundant and just ultimately very forgettable. My sixth biggest disappointment might actually shock people because um, people seem to love this movie for some reason, and it's the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I did not like this at all. I know it's Illumination, but I still went into this movie expecting to love it. Like, I saw the trailers and I'm like, this looks bright, it looks colorful, it looks like fun. Like, I thought it was easily going to be the best video game movie ever made. And I just watched it and it's just an Illumination movie. Just, it felt very kiddie. The humor never landed. The characters are as dull as they come. The world building is flat. It's not funny. The action's lacking. It's just a. And the soundtrack choices were just as generic as they come. So I felt like this could have been a really fun, inventive movie, and what we got was just Illumination shit. My fifth biggest disappointment is the first movie on this list, I believe. Yes, well, I actually like it, and it's Talk to Me. And the reason why this movie is a disappointment is that it premiered at Sundance and everybody loved it. Everybody called it one of the best movies that screened there. I heard it was shocking and terrifying, and I watched the movie, and for the first half, I was just like, this movie is every bit as good as people say. The fact that there's these people that want to get possessed and they're going viral off of it, and how that goes incredibly wrong in a very effective moment. That scene with the brother, holy shit. I was just like, oh, oh. And I'm just like, this is just truly unnerving stuff. But then after that, it's like the main character losing her mind, what's real, what's not. And I'm like, we're doing this again? It felt so fresh and new, and the movie just took a dip for me afterwards. You know, there was a moment where I thought it was going to go all Insidious, where the brother's stuck in hell and she has to save him. And nope, she's just going crazy, I guess. And I don't know, the second half of the movie just kind of sucked me. You know, like it was just filled with every generic A24 horror movie trope. And the ending is amazing. I love the last 2 minutes, but I really wish it lived up to its potential. And the sound design in this movie is great, but yeah, disappointment based on expectations in a great first half. My fourth biggest disappointment is The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. Look, I love the original franchise. The first movie is fine. The second movie is perfect. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. The third movie, great, love it. The last movie is my favorite of the franchise now. I think it's emotional, it's ballsy, it's exciting, intense, and thrilling, and character driven. I just love it. And the fact that Francis Lawrence was coming back to direct this movie, all the reviews for this movie seemed to be very positive. Like, people love it, and I just watched it and felt nothing. Like, that's the worst thing to feel. Nothing. I did not care about this take on the characters. I did not care about Lucy Gray or Snow or any of the other characters. And it just felt so incredibly rushed, and yet at the same time, it still bored the shit out of me. Like, it should have so clearly have been a limited series or a two-part movie, because just, yeah, it just didn't work for me. Like, that's just it. When Lucy sings, I thought it was very cringy. Yes, I know it's good song, but still cringy. I thought the first scene, where it's a flashback to the actual war, was a great idea, but then we don't actually see the war. So I'm like, what was the point of that? I thought Snow was a very uninteresting character. Yeah, it's just a movie that did nothing for me. Peter Dinklage does a good job, and that scene with him at the end is actually great. Viola Davis is fantastic in this movie. Jason Schwartzman is hilarious, and I love him. Everything else in this movie, just flat and forgettable. My third biggest disappointment is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Now, if you actually know me in person, you'd know that I was talking about the Dracula on a Boat movie for months. I just thought it could have been a really great idea. I thought it could be atmospheric and scary, and like I always say, the trick is to set generic movies on different locations and utilize them. So the fact that an entire vampire movie was going to be on a boat got me excited. Like I was hoping for nice atmosphere horror or fun schlock or just something, but this movie was just as dull as they come. Some impressive makeup. The fact that they actually killed the kid in one scene, I was just like, oh, that's shocking. Like, at least this movie has balls, but aside from that, it just, yeah, it bored me. And, what's the actor's name? Is it Jason Mitchell? The fact that he turns out to be Van Helsing at the end is kind of funny. I kind of like that, to be honest. But the rest of the movie, boring as shit. Now, the next two are hot takes because lots of people love these next two movies, but I gotta be honest. My second biggest disappointment is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And look, I love James Gunn as a director. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But this one just fell short for me. Now, it's very well crafted. The makeup and the visual effects look great. There's so much inventive world building on display. But I thought the actual story fell really flat. I do like the idea of what they're going for with Star-Lord and Gamora, but it doesn't get leaned into for the most part. I thought everything with Raccoon felt like a desperate attempt to make you cry, and it just never worked for me. Every time it cuts to a flashback, it took me right out of the movie. I thought the villain was just as lacking as they come. And then I think the biggest issue with this movie is that it's too bloated. At 2.5 hours long, there's just no justification for that length. It's got too many characters, too much going on, and I really felt it the one time. Adam Warlock, was that his name? Eyebrow Kid. Anyways, he has like no purpose in this movie. Why is he here? And then also, the soundtrack was a noticeable step down. He did not implement it as much as he usually does. And then the ending did not work for me. I'm sorry. The fact that nobody dies is a ballless way to end this movie. Like, it really is. You need people to die in movies to remind you what's at stake, to keep you at edge, to make you feel emotion, to test how much you've grown to care for these characters. And I'm not saying it should have been Rocket Raccoon, but it should have been someone. And the fact that everyone just goes off in their separate ways, I thought was completely contrived. Mantis wants to be free now because it's the last movie James Gunn is doing. Like, I didn't buy it. I thought Drax becoming a father-like figure was a really great idea, but I thought the overall execution was lacking. Star-Lord going back to Earth. I don't know, at the end, it's just like, really? Like, this is the note we're going with? Yeah, doesn't work for me. Some cool visuals, some great moments, but just a noticeable step down. But if you asked me at the beginning of the year, Gavin, what movie are you 100% sure that you're going to love this year? Which movie would I say? Well, I would say Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I love the franchise. They continue to get better and better. The trailers looked amazing. And this movie, just the more I sit with it, the less I like it. I thought the overall AI plot was just convoluted nonsense that I never cared about. The actual treatment of Elsa is actually repulsive in my opinion. Like, they just treated her like shit here. I thought the movie was way too long for its own good. And I just thought it used too many of the same tropes, too many of the same jokes as the rest of the franchise. And it just doesn't feel fresh at this point. It does like, the entire character of Hayley Atwell just reminded me of Elsa. So why would you kill Elsa off, if she's really killed off, for this new character that feels the exact same. Like, there's no purpose to it. It actually actively pisses me off. The train sequence at the end is great. The stunt is really cool. But some of the action, like that scene between the Mantis girl and Tom Cruise in the alleyway, is actually terrible. I thought the villain was really bad. I don't know. The more I think about this movie, the less I like it. Has its moments. I like the opening scene on the submarine. That's really cool. But I just thought the script was a bunch of convoluted nonsense, and I don't know, like, especially like there wasn't even that much action. I don't know. This movie, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. I changed my rating. It's bad. I don't like it. It is the biggest disappointment of 2023. But what do you think are the biggest disappointments of 2023? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin